These predators got caught red-handed. From driving around in a car filled with underage children to stalking a little girl, these predators got what they deserved for their horrid crimes. Who doesn't like watching these heartless people go behind bars, right? So buckle up and prepare to witness these creeps face the consequences of their actions as they are brought to justice by dedicated law enforcement officers armed with undeniable evidence. Without further delay, let's get to it. Number 1. Jeremy Guthrie. On July 5th, 2022, cops spotted a truck driving erratically on the highway, from speeding to weaving between lanes. They decided to follow and see what was up. When the truck almost crashed while making a wild turn, they pulled the driver over on suspicion of drunk driving. What unfolded next was deeply troubling. Jeremy Guthrie, a 41-year-old man, was found transporting 6 children in his truck, along with bottles of tequila and Fireball whiskey, all at 1 a.m. When the cop asked for his license, Guthrie struggled to find it, only to be pointed out by the officer that it was right between his legs. He claimed he was just nervous, to which the cop said he was too because of his driving. As for the kids, Guthrie insisted they were his friends and all 18, but the officer wasn't buying it and stated that nobody looked 18. Suspicions grew, especially when one passenger refused to disclose her age. The cops asked him to get out of the car, and when he stepped out, they pointed out that his jeans were unbuttoned, to which he responded that he'd probably forgot after a bathroom break. The cops took Guthrie aside for a talk, while another officer questioned the kids. It turns out none of those kids were even over 14. Suspicion levels were already off the charts, but they grew even more when Guthrie denied consuming any alcohol despite reeking of it, and then caved in, admitting to having a few drinks a few hours earlier. The police requested Guthrie to undergo a sobriety field test, but he initially refused. However, facing the threat of immediate arrest, he reluctantly agreed. Meanwhile, the other officer handling the children asked them to call their parents and have them come to the scene to pick them up. During the test, it became evident that Guthrie was indeed under the influence. He struggled to answer simple questions, such as whether he had ever suffered a traumatic brain injury. When asked to count from 62 to 47, he completely skipped the 50s and stumbled through the 30s. As a result, Guthrie was arrested and charged with driving under the influence. Additionally, he faced 6 counts of child abuse for putting the children's lives at risk due to his reckless driving. After his arrest, even darker details started to emerge. The grandmother of the girl, seated in the front, who was previously unaware of Guthrie's actions, informed the police that he had been forcing himself on the girl and her twin sisters for more than a year. Along with the abuse, it was also discovered that Guthrie was intoxicating the minors by encouraging them to consume alcohol. The girl revealed she met Guthrie on Snapchat and decided to hang out with him, thinking he was her age. He took her to a hotel and assaulted her, which then led to a lengthy period of abuse by him. She also revealed that Guthrie used drugs and owned numerous guns. Thankfully, these accusations came to light right after his arrest. Otherwise, he would have been released on bail soon. After an extensive investigation in December of 2023, Guthrie was finally convicted of his crimes. This DUI stop put an end to Guthrie's actions, preventing further harm to the young kids who are the same age as his own daughter. Yes, this sick stain on humanity is a father himself, and still committed such heinous acts. Number 2. Tyler Thompson and Operation Cyber Scumbag. On February 18, 2021, Volusia County Police received a call around 6:15 p.m. from the grandmother of a 13-year-old Oak Hill girl who had not returned home or shown up for the basketball game she was supposed to play. Deputy Royce James swiftly sprang into action upon learning of the case. He gathered information from her friends, who mentioned she was planning to meet a guy she met on Snapchat, whose name starts with T, at a motel. Her friends also suggested she might have been picked up from the Dollar General store in Oak Hill. Deputy James confirmed this lead by checking the surveillance footage from the store, which showed the teenager visiting the store and an employee confirming she was waiting to be picked up. The deputy, who himself has daughters, was deeply shaken by the thought of his own children being in a similar situation. Determined to find the teenager, he tirelessly searched from hotel to hotel in Edgewater. His efforts paid off when he stopped by the all-suite motel on Ridgewood Avenue. Upon receiving information from the front desk about a guy named Tyler Thompson, who had checked in earlier, the deputy had a gut feeling this was the person they were looking for. When he approached the room, the predator, clad only in shorts, opened the gate. Upon realizing it was a cop, he quickly backed up, while the teenager, now realizing she was finally being rescued, ran into the deputy's arms. After ensuring the victim was all right, she mentioned her stomach hurt. The deputy assured her that medical care would be arriving soon, and then turned to Thompson. Initially evasive about his age, Thompson eventually admitted he was 22 years old. The deputy didn't hold back, sternly telling him he had messed up big time. 1.5 years later, Thompson was sentenced to 40 years in prison on multiple charges. In court, the deputy recalled how, after rescuing the victim, she wouldn't leave his side during his entire shift. He got her a soda and let her play in the car, watching her play with the headlights. It made him realize how an innocent soul had been trapped in such an ugly situation by a sick man. Just a week after Thompson's sentencing, the Volusia County Police launched Operation Scumbag, a sting aimed at catching more predators by posing as minors on various social media sites. During that operation, they initially arrested Mark Anthony Fernandez, who was 26 years old at the time. He believed he was meeting a 12-year-old girl, but was apprehended by the police at the meeting place. What's even more disturbing is that he was found with a box of condoms he had purchased on his way. The cops also apprehended Christopher Allen Gesker, a 32-year-old who was chatting with an undercover cop posing as a 14-year-old girl. He even went as far as making comments like he would ruin all other men for the supposed girl, and just like Fernandez, he also had a box of condoms with him along with a change of clothes. And finally, there was William M. Baldwin, who believed he had found a 15-year-old girl. He expressed pride in chats by mentioning it was his first time being with a girl that young and was excited. However, his excitement turned to regret when he was caught at the decided meeting spot and was found in possession of meth. All three of these individuals were charged with using a computer to lure a child, along with multiple other charges. This operation saved a few more kids from being lured by these waste of oxygens. Such operations should be conducted more often to ensure that each one of them ends up behind bars. Number 3. Reagan Beresford. This next predator from Cape Coral is different from the others because the target child was not a stranger but the kid of his former neighbor. He had been grooming the minor for a while, luring her with obscene gifts and money. Even the mom had a gut feeling that this guy was up to something fishy, and she got proof when her child told her about the messages Reagan Beresford, their old neighbor, was sending, which made her uncomfortable. Props to that kid for seeking help from adults immediately, and the parents called the police, informing them on July 29, 2022. A detective from the Major Crime Unit then assumed the identity of the underage girl and started chatting with the 51-year-old Beresford. Quickly, the conversation became very sexual, with Beresford mentioning things that incriminated him further and further. At some point, he even sent a picture of his genitalia. What a pathetic low life. After weeks of chatting with the undercover detective on September 1st, Beresford scheduled to meet what he thought was a minor at a 7-Eleven. On his way, he stopped at a local Walgreens to purchase condoms. When he pulled up in the 7-Eleven's parking lot, he was greeted by cops who detained him. Later, Beresford admitted to sending inappropriate messages and provocative images. Reagan Beresford was charged with using a computer to lure a child, traveling to meet the minor, and transmitting harmful information. May this case serve as a lesson to all parents that building a healthy relationship with their children, having open conversations with them about who they engage with on social media, and setting boundaries can help keep them from being victims of these heartless predators. Number 4. Ashley Chatham. Be prepared because this incident is going to make your blood boil. On the morning of August 22, 2023, a visibly distraught man stormed into the police station at Stillwater, Oklahoma, and shared something deeply troubling with the officers. The man explained to the police that he had met a woman online not long ago, and they began dating. Shortly thereafter, she moved into his place. However, the man started to have gut feelings that her 19-year-old girlfriend, Ashley Chatham, was up to something. So last night, while she was sleeping, he made the decision. He discovered that his girlfriend had been assaulting his 3-year-old daughter and had been recording these horrific acts. While the exact number of files wasn't disclosed, the police officers, many of whom have families and children of their own, were deeply disturbed by the evidence. Consequently, they made the decision to arrest Ashley just moments later. When they showed up at the door, Ashley answered wearing only a sweater. Despite her attire, the officers showed no leniency and promptly made the arrest. After handcuffing her, one officer provided her with pajamas and assisted her in putting them on. Ashley, claiming she had just woken up, began to sob as the reality of the situation sank in. Her sobs intensified with disbelief when the officer informed her of the crime for which she was being arrested. Her tears weren't of disbelief at the crime itself, but rather of self-pity as she realized the serious consequences her actions would entail. When news of her arrest became public, people on the internet quickly noticed that her Facebook profile stated she worked at an elementary school. This raised concerns among parents and local residents. However, the school spokesman confirmed that she was in the process of being hired by Nicomer Park Elementary School as a para-professional. Despite this, she had not yet received any paycheck or worked with any students. In the days following her arrest, she was formally charged with 5 felonies. It must have been utterly heartbreaking for the father who reported the crime. This case teaches the importance of conducting thorough background checks on individuals you choose to have around your children. Furthermore, the timely discovery of Chatham's heinous acts undoubtedly saved the toddler from further abuse and potentially protected numerous other young children she was about to work with. Number 5. Robbie Wild. On July 2, 2021, a Friday evening, Prentice Weatherford was relaxing on his porch when he witnessed a car stop on the street outside Valley Station in Haney Way, Louisville. A man from the car grabbed a girl riding her bike by the collar and threw her into the car. In that instant, he realized it wasn't a family member, but a little girl being kidnapped. Without wasting any moment, Prentice jumped into his own car and began following the suspect's vehicle. Simultaneously, he dialed 911, providing them with vital information about the car's license plate, color, and even the model. The Louisville Metro police officer quickly located the red Dodge Challenger thanks to Weatherford's detailed description of the car and its position. After pulling over into a driveway, the suspect, 41-year-old Robbie Wild, complied with the orders given. With his gun drawn, another officer approached the passenger side, yelling for the door to be opened. However, his demeanor quickly shifted from angry cop to compassionate father when he saw the 6-year-old girl crying and screaming for her daddy. The officer swiftly took her in his arms, then back to safety, and everyone, including the heroic neighbor who had been behind the cop's car, breathed a sigh of relief. Although official records don't register Wild as a predator, it's concerning that he had no relation to the girl. However, given the court's findings that he was wealthy, with a nice house and income, it's unlikely that ransom was the motive for the kidnapping. Wild admitted to the police that he saw the girl playing on the street and circled around the block to come and kidnap her. However, he also claimed that he soon regretted his actions after witnessing the girl hysterically in the car. He realized he was wrong and feared he might harm her, so he decided to drive her back home. That's when the police pulled him over. While the truth behind his statement remains uncertain, what we do know is that Wild was sentenced to 13 years in prison on January 2023. Thanks to the heroic actions of Weatherford, the witness, and the quick response of the police officer, justice was served before any harm was done. Number 6. Andrew Jewell. On August 25, 2023, a mother called 911 after an employee at a thrift store tried to pull her daughter into the bathroom. The mother explained to the police that she was facing the other side, checking out books, while her 6-year-old son and 8-year-old daughter were looking at toys. Suddenly, she heard her son screaming that someone was dragging his sister into the bathroom. Rushing to the scene, she saw her daughter struggling against the door. When she yelled at the suspect, he let her daughter go, or the girl broke free. That's when Mother got her first glimpse of the man's face. The father, who wasn't at the store initially, arrived and was ready to go inside and teach the boy a lesson. However, fortunately for the alleged offender, the police were there to stop the father from beating him up. Andrew Jewell, the alleged offender, was a 19-year-old volunteer employee living in a faith-based shelter for homeless men and had been assigned to the thrift store as part of his community service. When questioned by the police, Jewell stated that he was already in the washroom when the girl walked in on him, which freaked him out. He claimed that while pulling up his pants, he tried to close the door, accidentally hitting the girl on the head, which caused her to cry. Before the police officer could say anything, Jewell himself revealed that he was on probation. When asked for details, he hesitated before mentioning misdemeanor assault. Realizing he's in trouble, he keeps repeating that he can't go to jail. He even has the audacity to ask the officer if they can step outside so he can smoke while he's questioned. The officer attempts to get to the truth of his previous charges, but Jewell keeps insisting it's just an assault, a small fight with his friends. But turns out it's all lies. In reality, he's on probation after being charged with misdemeanor assault and battery. Investigators reported over a year ago he entered a girl's bathroom in a Saginaw movie theater and grabbed a 10-year-old girl. So this was a pattern, and Jewell was hiding it from the officers in an attempt to make them believe his side of the story. However, after the store manager pulled up the CCTV footage, even the manager confirmed to the officer that Jewell's story didn't add up. As it became clear that the officer wasn't buying his excuses, Jewell began to throw a tantrum while being handcuffed. And with Jewell's track record, he was charged with more serious charges this time: child kidnapping, enticement, and unlawful imprisonment. Allowing someone like Jewell, with a history of such behavior, to work in a store frequented by children was a serious error in judgment. The cops need to seriously rethink their policies after this. Jewell's actions, attempting to lure a girl into the bathroom while her mother was nearby in the store, are just deeply disturbing. Number 7, Timothy Nielsen. Okay, so this last one feels like something out of a bizarre movie, but it is unfortunately real. On July 28, 2022, police received a call from a neighborhood in Brunswick about a man wandering around for weeks. Some thought he was just homeless, trying to break into homes, but when the police confronted him, his reasons left them baffled. Timothy Nielsen told the cops he was just there to try to get a date with a girl he hadn't heard from in years. He just wants to ask her out in person, and if she says no, he would leave. The police asked that he didn't even know where she lives. Isn't that enough to answer his question? And he replied he had an address on his phone, which he lost the other day. But what cops are unaware of right now is that the girl he was talking about was only 12 years old, and Nielsen, a 43-year-old man, had been cyber-stalking her since she was 8. She had an arts and crafts channel where Nielsen would leave inappropriate comments. The girl's family shut down the page after her mother saw those comments and called the authorities. But that didn't stop Timothy. He continued to try to reach this girl, changing identities and reaching out to her friends for more information. Then Nielsen traveled from Gresham, Oregon to Brunswick, Ohio to meet the minor and kept searching the neighborhood for weeks, but wasn't successful. Coincidentally, during the confrontation by the cops, Nielsen was actually outside the girl's doorstep he had been looking for. The family realized it was the same man who had been reaching out to the minor for years after the girl recognized his voice from the doorbell camera. The family's hearts sank, but with the police present, the father felt safe enough to step outside and inform the police that Nielsen had been harassing their 12-year-old daughter for years. When the cop told Nielsen to just back up and leave since the girl was a minor, he yelled at the father to not forbid her from doing what she wanted, to which the police corrected him that she was just 12 and his father could forbid her from whatever he wanted. And what he says next is something very disturbing. 12 is very old. I was looking for a 6-year-old. I mean, he said that to a police officer. If that wasn't crazy enough, he goes on bragging that he can do it because he is holy. That is just crazy talk, I say. Or maybe he is trying to act crazy to evade justice. And moments ago, Nielsen, who was saying that he is homeless and needs to drive a truck to make some money, tells the officer that he can pay him more than his employer. His behavior might suggest he's high on some drugs, but turns out no, he is just mentally sick. After a few minutes of the weird exchange, the officer, realizing his mental situation, decided to do something. To make Nielsen see that the girl is uninterested in him, the officer goes into the house to make it look like he went to talk to the girl. But when he tells Nielsen that the girl wants to do nothing with him, he starts charging at the officer, saying, "Do you believe it came from her, or was she under distress?" And that's the moment the cop had enough of his drama and put him under arrest. He was sent to Medina County Jail and convicted on 2 counts of stalking and other serious charges. He was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. Now I think that's too little. Don't you agree? The entire incident left the family frightened and worried, but they still wanted to share their experience to warn other parents about how dangerous the internet can be, even if their child is doing nothing wrong. That's a wrap on predators caught in the act by cops. While some were fortunate enough to be saved before suffering significant harm, some poor souls will have to carry trauma for the rest of their lives. Let this video serve as a reminder to be cautious about who interacts with your children and to teach them the value of boundaries and the hazards of strangers. Drop your thoughts on these cases in the comments below. While you are commenting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this coming your way. Until next time, goodbye and stay safe.